Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying the holiday season, celebrating with friends and family. And I'm so glad you stopped by because today we're going to be making a beautiful boho style leather bracelet with gorgeous blue colored beads and the most wonderful check glass button with a geometric design. And we're going to be using the beads that came in Sam's bead box for the month of December. And if you're not familiar with that box, I'll leave some information down below in the description section of this video. I'll leave a link to the website along with a coupon code in case you're interested. And if you missed out on getting this box, you can still make this bracelet. I'll leave a list of all the materials along with the tools I'll be using down below in the description section as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's project. And here we have Sam's bead box for the month of December 2023. The name of this box is Winter Wanderer. And guys, what an amazing box this was. The beads were super gorgeous. We had crystal quartz chips, blue apatite beads, silver daggers, preciosa crystal connectors, a wonderful array of fire polished faceted beads, some candy jade as well. I loved everything about this box, and I really couldn't pick a favorite. But I couldn't resist the cathedral beads in a gorgeous teal color, and some 6mm fire polished beads in an equally gorgeous blue color. But what inspired today's bracelet was that beautiful high-end check button in the same kinds of colors as those two strands that I just mentioned. And when I saw that button, I knew I had to make this bracelet. But anyway, I couldn't say enough about this box. I really, really loved it. Let's go ahead and go over the materials for today's project. Here are the beads we're going to be using for today's project. These are all from Sam's bead box. We have these beautiful 6mm fire polished rounds. The color is Blue Lagoon AB Mix, and these are absolutely stunning. I really love these. Look at the gorgeous coating on these beads. They're absolutely stunning. I love them. And here we have a beautiful check glass button. When I first saw this button, I knew I had to use it. Look how beautiful it is. It is so pretty. I love all those colors. It has a geometric design, as you can see. There's the back. But anyway, when I first saw this button, I knew I had to make a bracelet. And it actually brought back memories of leather bracelets that I used to make about 4 years ago. I was on a real kick 4 years ago making 5-wrap bracelets. And I've had several viewers ask me to make a tutorial, but for some reason I always put it on the back shelf. But there was a time when I was making these on a regular basis. And like I said, they were all 5-wrap bracelets, so they were pretty long. But I made all kinds of styles and I had so much fun making them. I'd usually use a lot of different kinds of beads in one bracelet, not just one kind or two kinds. And these are just a few images of the ones that I sold on my Etsy store. But anyway, as I was saying, we're going to use this button, and we're also going to use these beautiful fire polished cathedral beads. These measure 6mm in size, and what caught my attention were the beautiful facets of these beads. They're so pretty, guys. Look at that. I absolutely adore these beads. And of course, I love the color. Now we're not going to use too many of these seed beads. We're actually only going to use a couple of them, and I'll show you why in just a few moments. But as you can see, they have some of the similar colors that are in the other beads. And I think I'm probably going to just use the teal ones. And these measure size 8/0. Now in addition to these beads, I'm going to use a couple of these. These are from my own stash, and these are 4mm in size. And as you can see, the color is very similar to the ones down here. We're only going to use about 2 of these. Let me show you what else we'll be needing today. We're going to be using some leather cord, and this cord is 1mm thick, and it's in a metallic silver color. We're also going to use some nylon monofilament cord, and this cord measures 0.25mm in diameter, or 0.01 of an inch. If you've never used it, it's actually clear in color, as you can see. And here I have 2 metallic spacer beads. As you can see, they have a very large hole. I believe the hole is 4mm in diameter. The actual bead measures 6mm. And here I have some fold over cord end tips. They're pretty small, as you can see, and they do have a loop. And we're going to be using 2 of them. And I think that's about it. So now that we've gone over the materials, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by attaching the button clasp to the leather cord. And this part's really easy. I'm simply going to slide it through this loop here and bring it to the center. Let me bring my ends together. So there it is, as you can see. And now I'm going to do an overhand knot. Nothing complicated. And I'm going to slide the knot down so that it's close to that loop or the shank. Now you do want a little bit of movement, so you don't want it too tight. And I usually like to pull each cord. Just to make sure the knot is nice and tight. So there it is, as you can see. So that part's done. And now I'm going to attach my nylon cord. And by the way, this is about a wingspan's worth of nylon cord, and my wingspan's about 48 inches. And I'm simply going to tie it around the base of this knot. So once again, I'm going to do an overhand knot. And pull. And now I'm going to take the end and I'm going to go through the loop 2 times and pull. You want to make sure your knot doesn't get tangled with the leather knot. And now I'm going to slide it up towards the leather knot. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going through the loop 2 times. So that's once. And that's twice. And I'm going to pull. Let me slide it up again. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. Hopefully you can see the knot. And now I'm going to add a little dab of this GS Hypo Cement glue for added security. I'm simply going to apply it to the nylon cord like this. Just a little dab. You really don't need that much. Ideally, you'd want to let it dry for a little bit, but since I'm in the middle of this tutorial, I'm just going to keep going. And by the way, we are going to add some glue to the leather knot as well later on when we get done. So now I'm going to snip off this tail. Just like that. And now I'm going to slide on my metal bead. I'm going to slide it onto the end of my monofilament cord first. Let's see if I can do this. Like that. Bring it down. So there it is. And now I'm going to slide both ends of the leather cord through the bead as well. Like this. And bring it down. And I'm going to slide it all the way down so that it covers that knot that we just made. So that part's done. Now whenever I make these kinds of bracelets, I always like to anchor my cord to something. And today I'm going to be using this board. It's my macrame board, and as you can see, it's by Beadsmith. If you don't have one of these, you can use a clipboard, or you can tape your leather cord to your surface. It's up to you. Let me remove my flowers. I like to use this one because it has these grooves here. So let me show you how I anchor it. It's very easy. And I'm going to thread my monofilament cord into a big eye needle, and here it is. It's a bit tricky to open, so what I do is I use my pliers, just like that. And now I'm going to slide the end of my cord through the big eye needle, like this. And I don't anchor this end, and the reason I don't anchor it is because I want to be able to hold it so that I can position my beads in there. You do want both of these cords to be even though. Here's my size 80 seed bead. We're going to attach that first. So I'm going to pick it up with my needle and bring it down. Pick up my bracelet. And now what I want to do is go in between these two leather cords. So I'm going to pass my needle underneath like this, bring it through, position that seed bead in between those two pieces. This part's a little bit tricky. So there it is. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. And now I'm going to go underneath this cord. And pull. And now I'm going to go through the seed bead and underneath this other cord, just like this, and pull. So there it is, but I need to slide it up so that it's close to my metal bead. And that's as close as I'm going to get. And now I'm going to repeat the same thing again. I'm going to go through the seed bead. Let me see if I can get my needle in there. And ideally, you want to go underneath this bottom cord, like this. Pull. And now I'm going to go through the seed bead again. Ideally, you'd want to go underneath this top piece of leather cord, but I'm just going to go across like this. And then bring my needle underneath. It's just a little bit easier that way. So now that seed bead is anchored pretty well there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It's a little bit tricky because, like I said, the nylon cord is almost transparent and very thin. Here's my 4mm size bead. I'm going to pick it up with my needle. Like this. Bring it down. Pick up my work. As you can see, I have the nylon cord going over the top piece of leather cord. I'm going to position my 4mm bead in between the two pieces of leather cord. And now I need to go underneath this one and go through the bead, just like that. You do want to pull it so that it's nice and tight, but there it is, we've positioned that one now. So once again, I need to go underneath this top piece of leather cord so that we're ready for the next bead. Hopefully you guys can see that. It'll make more sense once we start adding more beads. Here are the blue beads, and here are the teal beads. I'm going to pick up one of these. Slide it onto my needle, bring it down, position my bead in between the two pieces of leather cord, like this, go underneath this bottom piece, and now I'm going to go through the bead and pull, and I'm going to go underneath the top piece of leather cord and take out the slack, and now we have the first 6mm bead in place. I hope this makes sense. Let me show you again. Let me pick up one of these now, slide it onto my needle, bring it down, pick up my work, position my bead in between the two pieces of leather cord, like this, go underneath this bottom piece, go through the bead, and now go underneath this top piece and pull. And now we have the second bead on. It's almost like you're doing a figure 8. You're going underneath this one here, going through the bead, and then you're going underneath this top one and coming over the top in order to position the next bead. Let me show you again. I'm going to slide a bead on, bring it down, position my bead in between the two pieces of leather cord, like this, go underneath this bottom piece and pull, go through the bead and pull, go underneath the top piece and pull, take out the slack, and now we have 3 beads. It is a little bit tricky, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. Let's pick up another bead, slide it on, bring it down, position my bead in between the two pieces of leather cord, like this, go underneath the bottom piece, go through the bead, and pull, and go underneath the top piece and pull. So now we have 4 beads. Let's do this one now. Slide the bead on, position the bead in between the two pieces of leather cord, like this, go in between the two and go underneath the bottom piece and pull. You want to go underneath that leather cord first, then go through the bead and pull, and then go underneath the top one and pull. I hope you guys can see this. Let me show you again. I'm sliding on one of these cathedral beads now because I'm alternating between these two. I'm going to position it between the two pieces of leather cord, go underneath this one, so I'm going in between like this with the needle, going underneath and pull, go through the bead and pull, And now I'm going to go underneath this top one. So I'm going in between the two pieces of leather cord and going underneath this top one and pull. And you want to make sure you take out the slack. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty repetitive. Let me just take it off the board and I'll show you. So here's a close-up. There's the back. The only thing you have to make sure you do is to maintain even tension. As long as you can do that, it should look okay. That's the biggest challenge whenever you make these bracelets. Just remember you're doing like a figure 8. You're going over this cord, underneath this bottom one, sliding through the bead, then going underneath this top one again, and back over in preparation for the next bead. It's exactly like a figure 8. So anyway, I'm going to keep loading these beads off camera because I don't want this video to be too long. And for my wrist, I'm going to load about 5 1/4 inches worth of beads. And that's going to give me about a 6.5 inch bracelet, or maybe a little bit less. The clasp and the loop is going to take about 1 1/4 inches of the overall length. So keep that in mind whenever you make yours. So for a 7-inch bracelet, you want to load about 5 3/4 inches worth of beads. But the best thing to do, guys, is just to wrap it around your wrist before you finish to make sure that you're getting the length that you want. So let me keep loading these beads and I'll be right back once I'm done. I thought I would insert this little tip to clarify a few things. As you're loading these beads, guys, you have to hold on to your leather cord and maintain tension like this. And then you position your bead, hold on to it with your thumb, go underneath the bottom cord and pull. And I'm holding on to the bead the entire time basically, and I'm also maintaining tension right here. You want to keep this nice and tight. So then you go through the bead, pull. As you can see, I'm holding onto the bead with my thumb. I'm going to go underneath the top leather cord, maintaining tension the entire time. You don't want this part to be loose. You want it to be nice and tight like this. And then of course you take out whatever slack you have there, because you want to make sure each bead is on nice and snug. I hope this helps. Okay, I'm back, and I have a total of 5 inches worth of beads, and that includes the little ones. And just so you know, there are 21 of the larger beads, but like I said, you may need a different amount depending on how long you want your bracelet. So now we're going to taper it off at this end. Here's my 4mm size bead. I'm going to pick up my work and go underneath this top piece, because that's how I want to start. And now I'm going to pick up this bead. Let me see if I can do it. Bring it down. Pick up my work. Position the bead in between the two pieces of leather cord. Go underneath the bottom piece and pull. Go through the bead and pull. Go underneath the top piece and pull. And take out the slack. So now that bead's in place. Here's a size 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to pick it up and bring it down. Pick up my work. Position the bead in between the two pieces of leather cord. Go underneath the bottom piece and pull. Go through the bead and pull. Go underneath the top piece and pull. So now that bead's in place, and now I'm going to go through the bead again. So I'm going through it like this, pull, go underneath the bottom piece of leather cord and pull. And now I need to go through that seed bead again and pull. Go underneath the top piece of leather cord and pull. And now that bead's in place. Let me remove my board because we don't need it anymore. So now we just need to tie off this end. So I'm going to remove the needle. And I'm going to do an overhand knot. And pull. So now I'm going to do another knot. So I'm going to go over, make a loop, go through the loop 2 times. So that's once, and that's twice, and pull. Now that should be pretty tight, but I'm going to do another one just like I did at the other end. So I'm going to make a loop and go through the loop twice. So that's once and twice and pull. And that's pretty much it, guys. Nothing complicated. Here's my glue. I'm going to place a little dab and let it dry. And once it's dry, I'll come back and we'll finish it off. Okay, I'm back, and the knot should be dry. So now we can snip off the excess cord. I'm going to use my flush cutters, and I'm not going to cut it right where the knot is. I'm going to leave a little bit, maybe 1 millimeter or so. Like this. I have another spacer bead here. And I'm just going to slide it onto my leather cord. Both pieces. And now I'm going to slide it over that knot to cover it so you don't even see it. And now very simply, I'm going to do an overhand knot, just like I did at the other end. And I'm trying to get it as close to that bead as possible. That looks pretty good. And like I said, we're going to add some glue to the knots later on after we get done. So now to finish this, we're going to create a loop here for the clasp. So I'm going to do another overhand knot. And before I tighten it, I want to make sure that my loop is big enough for the clasp. Let me just tighten it a little bit. And now I'm going to test it to make sure that my clasp, my button clasp can go through it. And that looks about right. So now I can go ahead and tighten it. Let me test it again, just to make sure. And I went through the loop just fine. Doesn't that look beautiful? I think it's gorgeous. Now we're going to finish off the ends, and I like to add some dangles to the ends. I'm going to use a couple of beads and a charm. The charm came in the Sam's bead box, and this little bead is from my own stash. And this is the same 6mm bead that's in the bracelet. I'm going to use some fold over cord end tips. Let me put a piece of paper underneath. I don't want to get any glue on my mat. The first thing I'm going to do is snip off the excess leather cord. And I don't want the tails to be too long. Let me just make them a little bit shorter. I think that looks about right. Of course, you can make yours as long as you want to. To make it easier, I'm going to add some glue to the fold over cord end tip first. And I'm going to go ahead and place my leather cord inside of it like this. Line it up so it's below the loop. Let me use my pliers. These cord end tips are so tiny. As you can see, it's lined up, and now I'm going to go ahead and fold over one of the flaps. And now the other one. Let me just make sure it's nice and tight so it doesn't come off. But I think the glue is going to help a lot. And now let me do this one. So now that I've attached the cord end tips, I'm going to go ahead and create some charms. I have a ball head pin. I'm going to use it on the large bead. Like this. And now I'm going to create a wrap loop. So I'm grabbing the pin right above the bead, kinking it, switching to this part, wrapping the tail around the nose, flip my pliers around, continue to wrap to the back. I'm going to open up that loop a little bit and slide it into the loop of one of the cord end tips. Like this. And now I'm going to grab this loop with some skinny pliers, grab the tail with some other pliers, and create a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. I'm going to tuck in that little sharp end. So here's my first dangle. Isn't that cute? It's so cute. And now I'm going to create a second one, and I'm going to attach that little bead to the charm. I'm going to use some 22 gauge wire. I've cut myself a piece. I'm going to grab the wire about 1/3 of the way down, kink it, switch to this part, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back. Let me open it up a little bit. I'm going to insert the charm like that. Once again, I'm going to grab that loop with some skinny pliers. And with another set, I'm going to grab the tail and create a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. Tuck in that little sharp end. Slide the bead on, like that. Grab the wire with my round nose pliers, right above the bead, kink it, switch to this part, wrap the tail around the nose, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back. Let me open it up. And now I'm going to slide it onto the loop of this other cord end tip. Like that. I'm doing wrap loops because the cord end tips have loops that are very skinny, and I'm worried that if I use jump rings, they're going to slide out. So that's why I'm doing this. And now I'm going to grab that loop with some skinny pliers again. Grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. Let me just get this one out of the way. Snip off the excess. Tuck in the little sharp end. Sometimes it's easier to pick it up with a hand. And there's my beautiful bracelet. Isn't it adorable? I really love it. I think it's so cute, and I love these colors. I really do. And here it is on. Isn't it beautiful? It's so pretty. These are such pretty beads. And I think the silver leather cord looks really nice with these beads. And I like these charms too. So now the last step is to add glue to the knots. Here's a piece of paper. I'm using GS Hypo Cement again. And I'm simply going to add a little bit of glue in between those pieces of leather. You really don't need that much. One of the reasons I like to use GS Hypo Cement is because it dries pretty clear. So that's the one. And now let me add some glue to this one. And to this one as well. Let me tighten it up because it's a little loose. There we go. You want to add the glue all the way around the knot. That should be good enough. And that's it, guys. There's my beautiful leather bracelet. I think it's super cute, it really is. I hope you like it as well, and I hope you can make your own. And this type of technique works with any bead. You can use larger beads, smaller beads, but if you're going to have different kinds of beads, it's a good idea to have them all the same size. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Happy New Year if I don't see you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.